Welcome back to the show. My name is Todd, Biron, and once again I have news, information, and advice that you weren't looking for, but you need nonetheless. Some of the more interesting news in the past week include Scarlett Johansson defending Woody Allen for some reason, Nicki Minaj retiring for the weekend. She'll be back on Monday. Some more news, Sears launching 1,000 new brick and mortar stores at various malls around the country. They think that they can revive everything. Just kidding. In other news, the British government is in chaos. Right now, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is trying to continue his overall goal of removing Britain from the European Union and doing about as well as Theresa May did. The British government is in a sort of chaos that makes America look normal. In other news, Hurricane Dorian that is, has finally dissipated. It is gone. It hasn't been a hurricane in a few days. It's certainly left behind a trail of devastation, though, in the Bahamas, as well as along the parts of the east coast of America. It's a constant reminder of the effects of climate change and the worsening effects of hurricanes. Like, sure, there have always been hurricanes, but they're more and more than they used to be and more powerful than they used to be. I remember when Dorian was just a tropical wave that was supposed to dissipate. It was never supposed to turn into anything, and then it did. But it was just supposed to be a Category 1, but then it became a Category 5. Or even as I speak now, there are 3 other systems in the Atlantic Ocean that could turn into hurricanes or tropical storms at the very least. But, that's just the way it is. More news, Neil deGrasse Tyson was recently on the Joe Rogan podcast. It was fascinating as always. Tyson's promoting his new book, but it's really just listening to him talk and explain the universe. That is really fascinating. The big story tonight, though, the big conversation, if you will, is, at least in my opinion right now, is the Taliban peace talks that were canceled, as well as the removal of John Bolton from the Trump administration. There has been a lot of talk, a lot of conversations, a lot of news articles, a lot of people talking about it. Because, of course, this is important information, especially for Americans. These are situations that will affect your life, possibly. And so my thought process when I heard about the peace talks was, members of the Taliban, they're obviously not good people. They've done some terrible things. But is it worth making peace with them if it could possibly save lives? Or at the very least, end a decades-long struggle for peace and stability and freedom in the Middle East. Not to say that it would end all of that, but it would be a step towards ending that, or at least ending our involvement, because as far as I can tell, our involvement has not exactly been beneficial in that overall goal. Despite numerous coalitions and toppling of numerous dictators, peace has eluded the Middle East. And so, my thought process, the peace talks with the Taliban and the removal of John Bolton is a step towards a more anti-war, anti-involvement approach. An overall step towards peace, which, in my opinion, seems like a good idea. It's worth it, despite having to walk away from certain groups such as the Taliban who have caused such harm. Especially this close to the 9/11 anniversary date, which was just a few days ago. So it brings up a lot of emotion, and it brings up a sort of heated discussion in a way. And there's a lot of, my point, I suppose, is that there's a lot of attacks against the administration for making these choices regarding peace in the Middle East, or regarding any sort of movements in the Middle East. So my thought process is why, like, there are plenty of reasons to attack this administration. Many, many things that are ongoing as we speak. But a step towards peace in the Middle East, it's hard to justify an attack on that. If anything, we should hold him to it. You know, see if we could put his feet to the fire, so to speak, because the Middle Eastern conflicts have been going on my entire life, since before I was born. I think it would be pretty cool to see it end in my lifetime as well. But that is just one man's opinion. My opinion is really in no higher value than the next person. Everyone's opinions are really important on this because it's such a wide-ranging issue. It affects so many people. I mean, I would love to hear comments in the comment section below. That's it for today. We'll be back next week with some more advice and information. I guess there really wasn't any advice on this episode, but perhaps next week. Maybe next week we'll have some life advice, something to use as a structure, or something to just keep in the back of the mind. Anyways, I've been Todd Biron, and have a good one.